I love the freedom to express myself, the freedom to laugh, the freedom to dance, the freedom to sing, the freedom to speak out. I love the freedom that I've inherited, plus the flavor that we bring to any table.
What is your name and tell us who you are?
My name is Dr. Ossie McKinney, and I am a Black scholar.
What's your favorite thing about being Black?
My favorite thing about being Black is one, I know the heritage in which I've inherited, a culture that is full of rhythm, of flavor. Um, I love the freedom that I have inherited because of the resilience of my ancestors. I love the freedom to express myself, the freedom to laugh, the freedom to dance, the freedom to sing, the freedom to speak out. I love the freedom that I've inherited, plus the flavor that we bring to any table.
What inspired you to be a Black scholar?
I think it's more a who than a what. Being a scholar means, of course, doing research and then building on top of it and bringing something else with the research that you find. And so, what inspired me to be a Black scholar was my uncle, Henry Davis. 10 years ago, he started encouraging me to research our family history. So it started there and researching my family history and doing genealogy. And in that, I learned that I love to research. I love to dig and find the answers to questions. And so that became an inspiration that carried over into my academic work.
What does being Black mean to you?
Mm. Being Black means to me, I realized that I have a lineage uh, that where I come from are people who are resilient. And so being Black to me means to me that I carry with me the stars and the scars of my people. Because of our history, they're the scars. But being Black means that, or what it speaks to me is that I am an overcomer. I'm resilient, that I can overcome whatever adversity comes my way. Being Black means to me that I come from a people that were creative and a genius. And so I use that to remind myself, don't be afraid to think outside the box, to be creative, to be willing to be stretched. It means to me that also don't be afraid to bring um, my spirituality, my faith to the table in everything that I do, whether it be work, play. Uh, and so I lead with purpose. I lead with my faith. I lead with my love for family. And so being Black encompasses all those things and more.
What were some of your favorite Black role models growing up?
Growing up, because I love to sing, one of my favorite role models would be, of course, Whitney Houston. In my community, it was the teachers in our church, like Miss Betty Robinson, Miss Mary Wiley. They signified for me what it meant to be a woman of grace, of love, of beauty, ones that uplifted the community, that reached out and weren't afraid to help the young people in our congregation and in our community achieve their dreams. They supplied platforms for those who were coming up behind them. For example, Miss Betty Robinson, she was the musician at our church. She saw that I had a love for wanting to learn how to play the piano. I was taking lessons, but I wasn't ready to do accompaniment to the church choirs. And so she was willing to sit down with me and teach me chords so that I could start by playing for our youth choir and then from there the adult choir. So I just loved how those women inspired me to be involved, to not just look out for me, but to look out for all those around me within my community.
How are you using your platform to invest in and uplift the Black community?
Okay, several ways. I operated two roles. One is a worship pastor in an African American church. And so there, I use my platform to uplift by with the songs that I teach, the way that I lead, by caring about the people, not just being concerned with production and what we produce and the sound that we put out, but being actually concerned about my community and those that I lead. When it comes to my other occupation, I work for a nonprofit, and in that role, I am director of research and administration. And so, with my research, I research racial justice acts that took place during the civil rights movement. I use this research to not only tell the stories of my people, but not to allow those stories to be whitewashed and to tell those stories without shame, with the hopes that we can ask and invite others to join in solidarity with us as we continue to fight for racial equity in this country.
What message would you leave behind to a young Black scholar?
What I would tell them would be to do the work, study, learn, allow yourself to be stretched. And in all of that, know that your voice is needed at this table, that you are an asset. You're worthy of being here. You don't have to change who you are to do this work. You're needed.
What superpowers does being Black give you in your field of life?
I think the superpowers, when I think of superpowers that being Black has given me, is the resilience of my people. And how it helps me in what I do, especially in research, is when I run up against a brick wall and feel like there's no more information that I can find. I persevere. I look for other avenues. I look for other ways. And so I would say perseverance, and also resilience to be able to stay in this space, in spite of others who may doubt whether I'm good enough or not. I come in not asking for permission, but knowing that I have a right to be here and I have a purpose that I'm living out.
How do you stay connected to your Black identity while navigating spaces that aren't always built for us?
By remembering who I am and whose I am. Not only am I a child of God, but I'm a child of Emma and Johnny Mack. Two African American parents who worked hard for me to be where I am, who sacrificed for me to be where I am. They did not have a middle school, high school, or a college education, but they sacrificed so that I could have that. And so I remember their sacrifice. I remember their faith and trust that I was learning and taking advantage of the sacrifices that they were given.
And if you could speak to your younger self, what advice would you give?
I would tell my younger self, Ossie, you are good enough. First of all, you are good enough. Do the work. You're good enough. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. The other thing I would tell myself is to relax a little. Relax a little. You don't have to fall into the rat race of this world and trying to achieve anything. Instead, relax and trust God to follow to the purpose that He has for you. It may not look like anyone else's, but it doesn't mean that it's not a worthwhile purpose. And so I would tell myself to relax a little and just trust the plan and the path that God has for me, because you'll get there.
And tell us a little bit more about you as a Black scholar.
Okay. It's funny because when I began my journey in academia, I studied music. Before music, it was supposed to be law. And then I switched over to music. And so I thought that I would end up being a music educator. And in some form and fashion, I have been that as a piano instructor within the churches and choirs that I've led. But then as my children began to grow up and enter college, I realized, you know what, I want to do something else. And so from there, I went to seminary, and it was there that I realized I wanted to teach in higher education. I wanted to teach theology at that time, I felt like, whether it be spiritual formation or the foundations of worship 101, I wanted to do that. But then when I went into my doctoral program and again started working on my PhD, that's when I realized I love research. I love reading old documents. I love reading and finding documents that help us to know who did what, when, why, where. And so that love for research has translated into the job that I have now. I ended up meeting someone who hired me for one thing, but then they had some research projects that they needed someone to lead. And so they asked me would I lead those research projects, not knowing that if the research projects they wanted me to lead was an extension of the research and work that I did for my dissertation. And so now I currently lead and research, like I said, racial justice acts that took place during the civil rights movement, but not just racial justice acts that took place during the civil rights movement by people of color, but actually my research deals with looking for white allies that did racial justice acts during the civil rights movement, looking for not what they did, not how they did it, but why they did it. And not just why they did it, but how were they able to do it while doing it in a time of fear. So that's what my research entails, looking for these white allies, learning their stories, telling their stories as it relates to our story, and then encouraging others to stand in solidarity with communities that are marginalized, to stand in solidarity and to help establish and gain racial equity in the world around us, within our community, within our homes, within the state, within our country.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing and highlighting your story and being a part of the Black mission. That was so amazing to hear, and I know we've touched a lot of people.
Thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this.